mean, it's crazy to think that just two small pieces of tape could really make that much difference.
So do you remember the last tennis match or other professional sports game you watched? Chances are you saw one or more of the athletes on the field or on the court wearing this, maybe on different parts of their body. So it's KT tape. For the purposes of this video, we're referring to it as KT tape, although there are different brands of tape that you can use when you're applying it. Rock tape, Kinesio tape, among other brands. And so there are different implications as to why you would use KT tape. And in this video, we're actually going to be covering how to tape for lateral epicondylitis, also known as tennis elbow. And while this is not the only way to tape, there are a ton of ways to tape for each condition. We feel that this way we're about to show you is effective and it has worked for us. Okay guys, so for lateral epicondylitis, I usually use two strips. First of all, in order to measure my strips, I have the patient seated with their elbow in about 90 degrees of flexion, nice and just relaxed with the wrist at a neutral position. First piece of tape should come from about the styloid, the ulnar and radial styloid, and I usually measure up to about roughly the lateral epicondyle of the elbow, and I go ahead and snip it there. Okay, and the second piece, after you've got the first piece cut, the second piece you want it to be about half the length of the first piece. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my second strip to be about that length. And if it's not exact, it's alright. You just want a ballpark figure. The first piece you want to come in and cut half the width. You want to cut it in half lengthwise, and you want to bring that that cut about a third of the way up the tape, because later on that's going to turn into a Y that we're going to use to surround each side of the extensor bundle. Okay guys, one thing to note before you put on your KT tape, use Germ-X or some kind of alcohol wipe to cleanse the area that you're going to be applying the tape, just to help it stick that much better, because oils from the skin or lotion that might be on will keep this from sticking as good as it could. So another thing to note is that you should always round your edges with your KT tape. This just helps the tape from rolling up on your skin. And go ahead and instruct your patient too, after you tape them, if they do notice the edges rolling up, then they can always just take some scissors at the house and clip off the portion that is rolled up. So typically what I like to do is have the patient in the same position, about 90 degrees of elbow flexion, neutral wrist. You want the wrist to be at neutral when you're applying this. And I take the solid end, not the split end. I take the solid end up here of the tape, and I just tear just the paper off about the first inch or so, peel that off, and that's going to be my anchor point. So I'm first going to apply this just proximal to the wrist. I'm not going to cross the wrist. Just want this just proximal to the wrist on the dorsal aspect of the forearm. Rub that in really good. Just like that. And then what I typically do, just like I tore the paper there, at the bottom of the base of the Y, at the base of the split, I go ahead and tear two more pieces. And so then I'm going to peel off the paper from the middle portion of the tape, that solid portion. Remove it. And so when you're applying the tape, you can even hold one hand here at the wrist. While they're at neutral wrist, you're going to apply about a 50% stretch to that. So I'm going to apply about a 50% stretch. Smooth it out there. Then I've got the main portion of the tape applied here. So now I'm going to peel the paper off one side of my Y. Same thing, I'm going to apply about a 50% stretch, and if you feel for where the wrist extensors are here at the lateral aspect of the elbow, I'm going to kind of curve and make one side of my Y while I'm applying about a 50% stretch, and I'm going to just apply that around the lateral epicondyle area. Then once the paper is peeled off the second half of the Y, you're going to come just lateral, if you could say it like that, to the lateral epicondyle of the elbow, and just curve it around, applying about a 50% stretch, and usually you'll get the ends of this to almost be touching if they're not already overlapping, just like that. Alright, now on to the next piece. This piece you're going to want to round the edges as well. And you're going to have the patient turn palm up, so they're going to supinate, and you're going to start the tape here at the volar aspect of the forearm, and then we're going to come around to the dorsal aspect of the forearm. So again, I'm tearing this paper off about the first inch of the tape. Once you have the paper off the first inch of the tape, you're going to take this and anchor the first portion at the central aspect of the volar side of the forearm. You're going to anchor it here, go ahead and rub it in, make sure that the edges are smoothed down, and then you're going to peel the tape off. And once you have the tape pulled off, you're going to kind of roll their arm as you're doing this, or have them go ahead and kind of come back into pronation. But what you want to do is kind of take your other hand and lift, just create a little lift at the lateral elbow here, and you want to take this tape, put about a 50% stretch, go over the top of the other piece, and then let that anchor, and when you let go, it creates just a kind of lift. So the first piece is surrounding the lateral epicondyle and lifting here, then you're coming across with a perpendicular piece and you're lifting in this direction. And the purpose of this is just to create an overall lift to that muscle, just to reduce some of the irritation caused by the lateral epicondylitis.
Yeah, I mean, it's just surprising that, I can actually feel that lift. You can feel it lifting that extensor bundle right there.
Yeah, and guys, this is something that Parker could wear for 2 or 3 days. Tape will stay on that long, even through a shower, if you're light, gentle with it. A few tips for applying the tape. One I'd say is to round your edges, and then if you can go ahead and tell your patient that if they start to notice some rolling, they can take some scissors and trim that off. Number 2, when you're applying the tape, make sure to do a lot of rubbing because the friction helps to activate the adhesive on the tape. So especially if they have a lot of hair, it's going to be harder to stick that tape on. Make sure you do a lot of rubbing and tell them to continue to do that. Number 3, if you're a therapist, make sure to ask your patient if they have any allergies because you don't want them to have any kind of adverse skin reaction to the adhesive on the tape. And I'd also note that while we are giving you these instructions, if you're a therapist and you're taping, if you're just someone who's looking to tape their own arm, if you're someone suffering from some lateral elbow pain, or you're an athlete, you just want to know how to tape your arm, use these tools that we just gave you and tape your own arm, and I hope that you can see some effects from it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh, it's like a Band-Aid. You got to rip it. Oh gosh. Ooh. I can't do it. Oh gosh. Gotta get it off. Get off that. It's legit taking off. Okay, roll it, I think, is better, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's just doing it in slow motion. Hey guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch this video. We hope you learned something today and that this was helpful to you in some way.
So our goal for this channel, The Upper Hand, is to give you guys the upper hand as you seek to better understand conditions of the upper extremity and just all topics related to occupational therapy in general.
So please take a second out of your day, make sure you like this video and subscribe to this channel so that you can be sure that you're going to see all of our upcoming videos. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time.